Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. This week I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to actually do a book tag. I've not done any because I only post once a week, so I'm not really set up to do many book tags just because it cuts away from all the glorious content that I bring you. Uh, and I saw Michael K. Vaughan do one about their top favorite 20 characters tag. So I thought I'd take a little time this week and do that. I'm going to go from 20 to 1. It's a very fluid list. Uh, People move up and down it all the time depending on what I'm reading. The only one that doesn't usually change is my number one. But the rest of them, like I said, it's a pretty fluid list, but you'll get the gist of who I like here. Number 20 is Joe Pickett from the CJ Box series, the Joe Pickett series. I just like him because he's just a decent guy. He's someone you'd want to be friends with. He tries hard at his job. He's not like I've discussed in the reviews about him. He's not the best shot. He's not always the smartest person in the room, but he always does the right thing. And I really enjoy that about him. Number 19 is The Green Llama by Kendall Foster Crossan. The Green Llama is a pulp character. I've got it all on Kindle, so I don't have anything to show you. Uh, and you can get all 3 volumes of the complete Green Llama on Kindle for really cheap. Uh, he's just such a weird character. He dresses in green robes and hood, and he went and learned secrets of stuff in the East, and he just is a really weird pulp character, and I really like him. He gets into various escapades, and like you do in the pulps, and he's just a really interesting character. The next one on my list is The Spider, another pulp hero. I really enjoy. He's got a double life, like most of the characters do. Uh, because I didn't look it up, his name escapes me. Let's see if it says here on here. No, it doesn't. But it's been a while since I've read one. But uh, the City Destroyer is one of the better ones. I haven't read it yet, but it comes highly recommended. So, but I really like The Spider by Grant Stockbridge. Um, Probably house name, but I really like The Spider. He leaves a spider's mark on his victims because he kills criminals, and he just is just a fun. I mean, he's kind of another version of the Shadow, but he's got his own little things that he does, and he's got a girlfriend who has a big, I think it's a Great Dane dog, and they get into adventures together, and it just wildly varies as to what they do. But I really like The Spider. The next one, which I'm going to pretend I'm holding a book, is Griffin from The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. So my clever nothing to show you has to do with the fact that he's invisible. He's kind of a mad character in sense of being a little bit off his rocker, but I really enjoy The Invisible Man's probably my favorite H.G. Wells book, and I like all his books. But he is, I really enjoy Griffin, and he's a great character. Number 16 is Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs. You're all probably familiar with Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, Lord Greystoke. Probably don't need to say a whole lot about him, but I really enjoy his books, and he's a great character. Number 15 is Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Who doesn't like Gandalf? I mean, who wouldn't want to sit down and have a pipeweed smoke with Gandalf and talk about just anything in the world, because he's just such a great character, and really enjoyable to read about, and anything from his magic to just his everyday wisdom. He's a really enjoyable character. Next one, Andrea Court by Adam Troy Casto. The Emissaries from the Dead is the first of the Andrea Court novels. There's a few others. There's a few short stories. I've read those. There's two other novels. One you can only get as an audio book. I've got it. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's on my list. She is a really interesting character and grows a lot in the first book, Emissaries of the Dead, and the other one. She has a mysterious past where everyone I think in this village that she was part of, this is science fiction, by the way, but they were all killed and she was part of the killing, but no one understands why it happened. And these stories deal with her dealing with that as she gets involved in the things she gets involved in. And I just think she's a really interesting character. And I highly recommend these books, Adam Troy Casto. Number 13 is Loch Lamora, From the Lies of Loch Lamora, and there's 2 sequels. It's called the Gentleman Bastard sequence. How could you not like that? It's kind of a science fiction fantasy blend. It's by Scott Lynch, and he just it's just a wonderful book. He's got a found family that work almost in a Dickensian way with a group of people that work for a guy that runs a church, and they steal and get into schemes, and Loch Lamora is just a really great character, and I really like him. Number 12 is a duo, Farfod and the Grey Mouser by Fritz Leiber. Great sword and sorcery stories. They are the perfect duo. Farfod is a barbarian that's kind of like a Viking type guy, and Farfod is more of a deals more with the magic end of it, and I highly recommend their stories. They're great adventure stories, sword and sorcery, and I just really like those characters. Number 11 is Drizzt Do'Urden by R.A. Salvatore. He's the star of probably, there must be 30 books, but he's a dark elf from underneath the lands of Forgotten Realms. He's a Dungeons and Dragons character, and he just is like the best swordsman, and goes around having to deal with the distrust because he's a dark elf, and he's really a good guy though, and he has to go against people's expectations to see who he really is, and he just gets into magnificent adventures. Like I said, it's a great use of a Dungeons and Dragons property, and R.A. Salvatore tells some really great stories. Number 10 is Patty Meehan by Denise Mina. She's from Field of Blood is the first story of hers. She is a fledgling newspaper reporter. She doesn't do any big time stories, but she really wants to. And she gets involved in the first book with a kidnapping that she has ties to some of the people that may be involved. And just a really interesting mystery character. And Denise Meehan is a really good author, and I really like her characterization of Patty Meehan. Number 9, probably don't need to say a whole lot about him, but it's John Carter of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're familiar with John Carter, who goes from being ex-Civil War soldier to being the warlord of Mars. Uh, he's got about 11 books. He's especially prevalent in the first three. Uh, a Princess of Mars, a Warlord of the Gods of Mars, and then a Warlord of Mars. Gods of Mars probably being my favorite one of the bunch. But he's a go after it, get it done hero. He wants to be the hero, kind of the opposite of Joe Pickett. He is good at everything he does. He wants to do the right thing and be a hero, and I just really enjoy his stories. Number 8, another one that probably needs no explanation, Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle, world's greatest detective. Unless you count Batman as the greatest detective. I guess it just depends on your preference of books or comics. Uh, but he and John Watson are great characters, and they just have fantastic mystery adventures and always have a great way of solving them. And I just really like Sherlock Holmes. Okay, number 7 is Tabitha Jute. It's from Take Back Plenty by Colin Greenland. There's also 2 sequels. She's a no-nonsense character, a ship's captain. She gets involved in really weird uh, adventures with some really strange characters, and she changes a lot because of that. And she's just a really nuanced character, and I really recommend this book and its sequels. She's very fun to read about, very interesting character, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to say much without giving anything away, but I really enjoyed this book. One of my favorite science fiction novels, uh, and like I said, there's 2 sequels, and I highly recommend reading those. Number 6 is Royce and Hadrian by Michael J. Sullivan, from A Theft of Swords. I did a review on them earlier on this channel. You can see that for my reasons for liking them. They're just a great duo. Uh, a little like Fawford and the Grey Mouser, but not really. They have a different vibe going than they do. Uh, and that's why I like them, and I love their stories. I love Michael J. Sullivan's books. Highly recommend them. If you really want to see much about that, go back and check out uh, um, my review on A Theft of Swords. Number 5 is The Black Bat by Norman A. Daniels. He's another pulp character. He came out around the same time as Batman did. He's different in appearance. He's got a cowl, but it doesn't have bat ears on it. But he is known as the Black Bat, and he's, I think, the district attorney, or at least a lawyer. And he loses his sight and has a special operation that returns his vision to him, and he can see in the dark. And he dresses up in this leather outfit as the Black Bat and goes out with his guns and dispenses justice in the way pulp heroes do, which is by killing the bad guys. He's really entertaining to read about. The stories are interesting. He's got a butler who's also like a former con artist, and who's a really great character in himself. And I really enjoy the stories. And the Black Bat, you can get them. I don't think they're available on Kindle actually, unless they have come about in the last little bit. But I've got the actual collection. There's 6, I believe, and they collect 3 or 4 books a piece. And I really recommend The Black Bat by Norman A. Daniels. Number 4 is Satan Hall by Carol John Daly, another pulp hero. I don't know how much of a hero you call him, but he's a police detective who finds ways to legally murder criminals. That in and of itself made me drawn to him because I was like, that's just awesome. He's out to get the bad guy no matter what. Kind of a precursor to the Dirty Harry type of cop, and I really enjoy his stories. They're really hard to come by and find, but I'm not going to talk much about it now because I'll probably be doing a review on his stories here sometime upcoming. Number 3 is John Shaft by Ernest Teidemann. You're probably more familiar with the movie Shaft that was based on his book, but Shaft was a great private detective and, of course, a ladies' man and just everything you want to be in a private detective. Uh, again, from what I remember, it's been a long time since I've read the books, but I do think that the original movies from the 70s stayed pretty close to it. Uh, but the books were more involved, and you got to see a lot more of Shaft as a character in them. Number 2, Conan by Robert E. Howard. I love the Conan stories. Again, you probably, if you're watching this, are familiar with them. Uh, great stories. He goes from being just an outland thief to becoming king of the greatest empire in his world, and he's just a really nuanced character, also a pulp character, and he just is really interesting and is a lot more. There's a lot more to him than a lot of people give him credit for, and I think uh, to check him out would be something you should do. If you've never read Conan, just read the Robert E. Howard Conans, not any of the pretender stuff that's out there. Okay, like I said, that list is fluid. The people change around on it all the time depending on what I'm reading. The only one that stays the same is number 1, which is Irwin Maurice Fletcher by Gregory MacDonald from the Fletch series of mysteries. There's, I don't know, 11 or 12 of them. I really love Fletch. I read him initially as a teenager and in through college, and this was before Kindle and before internet, and I got every one of his books at a used bookstore, not the same bookstore, but in different bookstores in different states. I had to really search to get all his books, and he's a newspaper reporter who does what he needs to do to get the job done and investigate. And he's got some great mysteries. Uh, but I have all his books. I got, like I said, at used bookstores. I really had to search for them because they weren't in print at the time. And I think recently they've come into print. I'm not sure if they're on Kindle or not yet. Hopefully they are, because I love Fletch and I highly recommend his stories by Gregory MacDonald. And Gregory MacDonald had some other books too that I really like as well. Just a great author, but Fletch, he's got to be my favorite. He just is a great mystery character. The way he solves things is fantastic, and you always get some surprises in his books. So that's my list of my top 20 characters. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it, and I hope that any of you out there that haven't done this tag will give it a shot because it kind of gives you some insight into the reader. Uh, Thanks for joining me this week, and I'll see you next week.